Welcome back to Mad Hatter's Civil War history. When people think of the famous Union generals, names like Grant and Sherman usually come first. But when the war reached its most decisive phase, one man's speed, aggression, and relentless pressure helped break the Confederacy's final resistance. That man was Philip Henry Sheridan. Small in stature, fierce in temperament, and devastatingly effective on the battlefield. Philip Sheridan was born on March 6, 1831. His birthplace is most commonly listed as Albany, New York, though the exact location has been debated by historians. He was the third of 6 children born to John and Mary Sheridan, who were Irish Catholic immigrants from County Cavan, Ireland. When Sheridan was still young, the family moved west to Somerset, Ohio, where his father worked as a road construction contractor. Sheridan grew up in modest circumstances, working as a clerk and bookkeeper in local stores, jobs that quietly taught him organization, discipline, and attention to detail. In 1848, Sheridan secured an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. His time there was rocky. He struggled academically, particularly in mathematics, and gained a reputation for having a sharp temper. During his third year at the U.S. Military Academy, 1851, Philip Sheridan became involved in a serious disciplinary incident with a fellow cadet named William R. Terrell, who would later become a Union general himself. According to multiple historical sources, the conflict began after Sheridan, at West Point, believed Terrell had insulted him. Sheridan reacted aggressively and threatened to run Terrell through with a bayonet, a grave offense at West Point, where discipline and restraint were paramount. The confrontation escalated into a physical altercation. West Point authorities responded decisively. Sheridan was suspended for a full year, from September 1851 to August 1852. Importantly, he was not expelled, which suggests that the Academy viewed the offense as serious but redeemable. During his suspension, Sheridan returned home to Somerset, Ohio, where he resumed work as a clerk and bookkeeper, the same kind of work he had done before entering West Point. This period forced him to reflect on his behavior and his future. Sheridan himself later described the event in his memoirs as a fisticuff battle, emphasizing that it was not a duel, but a violent outburst driven by his temper. Despite these setbacks, Sheridan returned, completed his studies, and graduated in 1853, ranking 34th in his class. While not an academic standout, he left West Point with a strong foundation in military discipline and leadership. After graduating from West Point in July of 1853, Sheridan was commissioned as a brevet second lieutenant and assigned to the 1st U.S. Infantry at Fort Duncan, Texas, on the Rio Grande frontier. This was one of the Army's most isolated and difficult postings. In late 1855, Sheridan was transferred to the 4th U.S. Infantry and sent to the Oregon and Washington territories, where he spent nearly 6 years. In 1855, Sheridan took part in the Yakima War and the Rogue River Wars, conflicts between U.S. forces and Native American tribes resisting displacement. These frontier years shaped Sheridan's aggressive style, favoring speed, initiative, and decisive action. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, he was serving as a captain, largely in staff roles, which left him frustrated and eager for combat command. Sheridan's break came in 1862 when he was appointed colonel of the 2nd Michigan Cavalry, despite having little prior cavalry experience. The 2nd Michigan Cavalry Regiment was organized at Grand Rapids, Michigan, and mustered into federal service on October 2, 1861. After leaving the state in November, the regiment spent the winter training at Benton Barracks near St. Louis before entering active field service in early 1862. In February and March of 1862, the 2nd Michigan Cavalry was assigned to John Pope's Army of the Mississippi. The regiment participated in operations along the Mississippi River, including skirmishes near New Madrid, Missouri, and the siege and capture of Island No. 10. During this phase, the regiment was heavily used for scouting, picket duty, and reconnaissance, helping to isolate Confederate forces and block reinforcements. At the Battle of Boonville, Mississippi, Sheridan's aggressive handling of outnumbered troops impressed his superiors, earning him rapid promotion to brigadier general. He continued to rise quickly, commanding divisions at Perryville and Stones River, where his stubborn defense earned him promotion to major general of volunteers. His performance at Chickamauga and Missionary Ridge further cemented his reputation. It was in 1864 that Sheridan began to garner the attention of the top general in the U.S. Army, General U.S. Grant. Grant held Philip Sheridan in extremely high regard, and the documentary record makes that very clear. At the same time, Grant was not uncritical by nature, and there are a few places where his praise is qualified. What's notable is how rarely Grant criticized Sheridan directly, especially compared to how candid he was about other generals. Grant consistently described Sheridan as one of the most effective and reliable officers in the Union Army, particularly for aggressive, mobile warfare. In his personal memoirs, Grant credits Sheridan with transforming Union cavalry from a largely defensive force into an offensive arm capable of independent operations, especially during the Overland Campaign and Shenandoah Valley Campaign of 1864. Grant explicitly linked Sheridan's leadership to the defeat of Confederate General Jubal Early and the neutralization of the Shenandoah Valley as a Confederate supply base. In 1864, Grant brought Sheridan east to command the Cavalry Corps of the Army of the Potomac, a turning point in the war. Sheridan's most famous achievements came in the Shenandoah Valley Campaign of 1864, where he defeated Early and systematically destroyed the valley's ability to support Confederate armies, a campaign remembered as the Burning. The Burning was the name given, primarily by civilians in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley, to a systematic Union campaign of destruction carried out in late September and early October 1864 by the Army of the Shenandoah. Its purpose was not battlefield victory alone, but the deliberate destruction of the valley's agricultural and industrial capacity, which had long sustained Confederate armies and enabled repeated invasions of the North. For Valley residents, the Burning was catastrophic. Families lost entire harvests just before winter, and their livestock, often their only source of food or income, was gone. Some civilians attempted to hide animals or grain, occasionally succeeding, but many lost everything. The psychological impact lingered long after the war ended. From a strategic standpoint, the Burning achieved its objectives. The Shenandoah Valley ceased to function as a Confederate breadbasket, and Confederate forces under Early were weakened and eventually defeated at Cedar Creek. The valley was permanently denied to Confederate military operations for the remainder of the war. Grant and Sheridan both considered the campaign necessary to shorten the war, even though they acknowledged its harsh consequences. In 1865, Sheridan's cavalry played a decisive role in cutting off Robert E. Lee's retreat, helping force the Confederate surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. His aggressive pursuit ensured the war ended swiftly and decisively. After the war, Sheridan remained in the Army, serving in Reconstruction and later commanding forces during the Indian Wars of the Great Plains, an aspect of his career that remains controversial. He also became a strong advocate for the protection of Yellowstone National Park, helping to preserve it from commercial exploitation. In 1883, Sheridan was appointed commanding general of the U.S. Army, and shortly before his death, he was promoted to the rank of General of the Army. Philip Sheridan died on August 5, 1888, in Nantucket, Massachusetts, from heart disease at the age of 57. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery, a fitting resting place for one of the Union's most relentless commanders. Philip Sheridan was not the largest man, nor the most polished, but when the Union needed speed, aggression, and relentless pressure, he delivered. His leadership helped the Union ensure victory and reshape modern cavalry warfare. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Civil War leadership, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Mad Hatter's Civil War History, and stay tuned for more stories from America's defining conflict. Thanks for watching this episode of Mad Hatter's Civil War History. Like, follow, and click the bell for notifications to ensure you see all of the latest content. As always, let me know if there's any other important events of the American Civil War you would like me to address.